If you asked a random group of people in America what are the greatest sporting events, they'd probably tell you the Super Bowl and the World Series. But if you ask that question of people in most any other country in the world, they'd probably tell you the World Cup, which of course is the international soccer championship, and the Olympic Games. I think really the Olympic Games certainly have captured the heart and the attention of people around the world like no other sport. And if we think back in 1996, when the city of Atlanta hosted the Olympic Games, you remember what that was like to have the entire world looking at us because we were on the stage at that time. You know, I'm City Manager Bill Osborne in Douglasville, and it's my pleasure to welcome you today to another edition on the agenda. And back in the mid-1990s, it was my pleasure, in addition to my other duties, to serve as the chairman of the 96 Welcome Committee. And this was a committee that Douglasville, Douglas County created so that we could be a host community for the 1996 Olympic Games. And we were the host community for the nation of Moldova. That was a small country that's adjacent to the Ukraine and Romania near the Black Sea. It once had been the smallest of the Soviet republics. And we had a great time being the host community. I know my wife, Jane, and I, we had several of the Moldovan athletes staying in our home for periods of time during training in Douglasville, Douglas County, and that was a great fun. And we also were the host community for the United States field hockey teams, men's team and the women's team. Now, you may wonder why here on the agenda I'm talking about the Olympic Games, especially thinking back to the Winter Games that were held in Vancouver, Canada, back earlier this year. Well, there's a special reason for that, and we're going to talk about that today because I want you to be a part of what I consider to be one of the best chapters in sports history in Douglasville, Douglas County. And it's my pleasure now to welcome an international athlete, a young woman who certainly became a star during the 2010 Winter Games. Her sport is bobsledding, and believe it or not, she's from Douglasville. And so I'd like at this time to simply welcome to on the agenda one of the world's best bobsledding athletes, Elana Meyers. Elana, welcome to On the Agenda.
Thank you. My pleasure to be here.
Well, you know, during the program today, we will be talking about your Olympic experience and your becoming a world champion bobsledder, but I want to go back just for a little history because I want you to tell us a little bit about those early days. I know you used to play softball at Hunter Park in Douglasville, graduated from Lithia Springs High School, so just give us a little bit of that part of your history.
Well, of course, I grew up in Douglasville, moved here when I was about in second grade. Okay. So I've played at all the Douglasville parks, Fairplay, Bill Arp, right, all the different parks, played softball for the longest time, also played basketball, ran track, did a couple different things. So I've really had an entire unique experience in the county, and actually was part of the first Lithia Springs softball team to go play fast pitch, which was a pretty unique experience as well.
Right. And softball, of course, obviously was a sport that you excelled in. Tell us how you moved from being a Lithia Springs Lion to being a George Washington University Colonial.
Well, softball was definitely something I had a passion for, and I wanted to compete at the next level, and it was my dream to play Division I softball. So I was playing in a tournament in June or July, after I graduated already, and the coach discovered me basically, right, and recruited me to George Washington University, and I signed a scholarship there. Right,
and you had a great career there, obviously. I was reading some information the other day that you had led your team. You were a pitcher and a shortstop, and made it to the Atlantic 10 tournament, and but also saw that you were a member of the East Coast Athletic Conference Division I softball all-star team, but also found it was very interesting that in your last home game at George Washington, you hit a grand slam home run to win the game. I bet that was a thrill.
That was one of my highlights of my sporting career for sure, especially as my softball career goes. I was a left-handed hitter, usually known for my speed. Didn't really hit a lot of home runs, so it was a pretty big highlight of mine to be able to come up with a big clutch home run at that moment.
Right. And then after your career at George Washington University, I saw that you actually played professional softball, and you were at a team in Midland, Michigan, and the name of that team was the Mid-Michigan Ice. That almost looked like to be a forerunner from going from softball to bobsledding.
Actually, I never thought about it that way, but it's definitely interesting when you think about it.
Right.
The team was named Ice.
But from playing for the Mid-Michigan Ice softball team, then you became a bobsledder, and part of that, of course, was you had an Olympic dream, even as a little girl here in Douglasville, and that was to be an Olympic softball star. But what happened to softball in the Olympics?
Well, since the age of 7, I had this dream of going to the Olympics. Actually started off with track, and that was my dream of running track or doing something in the Olympics. And then in 2005, while I was in college playing softball, softball was taken out of the Olympics. I still wanted to be in the Olympics, so I needed a new sport. And my parents had seen bobsled and suggested I try it, so that's eventually what I did.
I think that's just amazing to have your aspirations in softball, and with that door being closed, to say, okay, we'll take to the snow and the ice in bobsledding, but I guess sometimes adversity breeds opportunity, and certainly losing the softball as a sport just made you even more determined, it appears, to get into the Olympics in another way.
Oh, definitely. It's always been my dream, and to be able to get there, whether it was going to be through softball or through bobsled, which it was, it's an amazing accomplishment.
Right. Now, I know that after you got your degree from George Washington, which a BS degree in exercise science, at some point you came back to Douglasville and you worked at Gold's Gym as a personal trainer. Tell us about coming back and going to work for Gold's Gym, and then one day you'll be through with your bobsledding career. What are your plans at that point?
Definitely had a great opportunity to come back and work at Gold's Gym. After my first year of bobsled, actually, they welcomed me back and allowed me to work and still train at the same time. So that was an amazing experience, and I hope hopefully we'll work there again sometime. Still train there and everything. So I really have a family over at Gold's Gym.
Right.
But after I finished my bobsled career, I am currently getting my master's in sports management, so I'm looking to go on to own my own training facility,
right.
A multi-purpose training facility that trains a multitude of sports. Probably not bobsled down here, but you never know.
Right. Now, before we begin to talk about bobsledding in a few minutes, I know you're from an athletic family. I know that I used to keep up with your dad. I remember when he was an outstanding running back at the U.S. Naval Academy. And of course, Eddie Meyers played for the Falcons. One thing I always admired about your dad is he had to do his, of course, active duty after he graduated from the Navy. And most people, I think, when you would have your leave, you would want to take it easy. He'd go to training camp, which certainly was a grueling experience, I know, but so you came from a very competitive family.
It definitely came from a hugely competitive family. My dad was very involved in the athletics. He's a great athlete himself, but I like to say behind every great man is a great woman, and my mom herself was very athletic.
Okay.
So it's been bred in my house ever since I was little. You know, the importance of being active, and actually whether or not you want to pursue an athletic career, my parents have always been supportive to me, and my dad, I definitely draw from some of his experience as a professional athlete himself.
Right, right. Just want to ask, kind of on a personal note, I'm always blessed when I see someone in athletes or in the public eye who's very bold about their profession of faith. And you've certainly done that, including speaking about your faith. Just share with us just a little bit about that.
Basically, I am a Christian. I believe Jesus Christ is the Savior. And how that basically came about is I grew up going to church, but didn't really have a relationship with Christ. After some difficulties I went through with college, I really started developing a strong relationship with Christ, and He's led me every step of the way since. I believe that's the reason I'm in bobsled, and I believe that's the reason I have a bronze medal around my neck right now. And that's the reason I'll continue to do whatever I continue to do.
Right. Well, appreciate you sharing that. May God bless you. And we're going to come back in a minute and talk about your bobsledding career. And To our viewers, stick with us. We'll be back, and we're talking with Elana Meyers, Olympic medalist from 2010 Olympic Games. All right, we're ready. We'll just keep rolling. They'll plug in whatever they want to plug in. Are we ready? Welcome back to On the Agenda. I'm City Manager Bill Osborne, and I'm talking today with an international athlete, Elana Meyers from Douglasville, and she is a medalist from the 2010 Olympic Games. Seems to me you had a tremendously fast start in bobsledding. You began the sport in 2007, made the national team as a rookie. The next year, 2008, you won your first World Cup medal, a bronze. Then in 2009, in the World Championship, you won a silver. And I know none of this came easy, but seems like almost overnight you became one of the elite in the world in women's bobsledding.
Well, it definitely seems that way, but it didn't come without a lot of hard work, a lot of learning, a lot of self-discipline. So it was definitely a huge struggle, and it continues to be a struggle to be one of the top athletes in the world.
Right. You know, we don't really have much bobsledding weather in Douglasville. Maybe a little snow a couple of times a year. Certainly nothing that you could do practicing on the bobsled. So where do you do your training?
During the summers, we do most of our running and lifting at any dryland facility because there's no tracks in the World Open.
Right.
So right now I'm training at Lithia Springs High School, at Gold's Gym, Douglas County High School, some of the different facilities around the area.
Right.
And then during the winter, we go to our tracks, which are in Lake Placid, New York, and also in Park City, Utah. And then we spend a lot of our time traveling around the country and around the world, actually, competing.
Right. Well, my knowledge of bobsledding is very limited. I've watched it on television. I know that I have seen on the women's side the two-person team. On the men's side, I think I've seen the two-person team and a four-person team. And I know you've got a driver, and then the other position on the women's team, I've seen it identified as being the push athlete and also the brakeman. Tell us about the team and why it has the second position, which you are in, is both the push athlete and the brakeman.
So basically in a women's bobsled team, there's a pilot or a driver and the brakeman or the push athlete. The reason they're called push athletes is because that's exactly what we do. We push the sled. The reason we're called brakemen is because we pull the brakes at the very end of the track. So it can go either way. But basically we are push athletes and brakemen essentially, but we basically call ourselves brakemen. Right. So we push the sled off at the very start of the race, and then we hop in the sled, and at the very end of the race, we pull the brakes. What else people don't know about brakemen is in order to get the sled back to the top of the track, that's all the brakeman's job. And any maintenance or anything that goes on with the sled, it's the brakeman's job to make sure that it gets taken care of.
Right. And certainly with pushing that sled to start with, and that's got to be a person that is certainly a good athlete, would have to have done a lot of workouts to be able to accomplish that, I would think.
A lot of workouts, lots of heavy lifting, fast running, those types of things.
Right. Now, you were the 2009 U.S. National Bobsled Push Champion. So you've touched on this, but in your own words, what does it take to be the national recognized champion as the push athlete?
Well, basically how it works for push athletes is we go up to Calgary, Canada, and we have a push start, which is basically a 50-meter track where we just push the beginning of the bobsled race, basically. You don't drive down the track or anything like that, so it's just a start. And during that time, when we're up in Calgary, we actually compete against the other brakemen to see who can push the bobsled the fastest. And this past season and the season before that, actually, I was victorious and was a push championship. Okay,
congratulations on that. Now, even when you got to Vancouver, you knew that you had made the team, but that didn't necessarily mean that you were going to be out on the track or whatever the proper identification is for where the bobsled runs the race. So tell us how that process works and the events that led up to you knowing that you were actually going to be in the race for the gold.
Well, actually in after the 2006 game, they eliminated alternates. So as soon as the team was named, you knew you were going to be racing right away.
Okay.
And once they named the team, they actually named drivers and brakemen as teams.
Okay.
How you make the team basically is drivers make the team completely separately from brakemen. Drivers make the team based off of their finishes in races. So it basically works like NASCAR. So every race they get a certain amount of points based on how they finish, and it's based off of those points that they qualify for the Olympics. Now, brakemen are chosen by a committee of coaches and different alumni athletes and those type of things, where they sit together and decide the brakeman based off of performances during the year, different testing numbers and those type of things. So the brakemen are chosen and the drivers earn their spots.
Okay, okay. Now I understand that the race itself takes less than a minute. And of course, even fractions of a second are very important. In fact, I think I read that the difference between the bronze, which you won, and the gold was 1.12 seconds, just almost the snapping your fingers, about the only difference there. And we do expect to be able to hopefully get one of your races that we can show with this program on City TV. But certainly we expect to be able to have some kind of race that we can show. But if you would, just kind of go through what happens from the time, I'm going to say, when you get the green light that you know it's time to go, you're the push athlete. Just take us through what actually happens from that point down to the finish line.
Okay, so usually once the green light goes off, we have about 60 seconds to go. The brakeman starts the race. The brakeman will usually say something of a cadence. So it all goes off the brakeman. The push is the brakeman's show. So usually you'll say something like back set, the driver will say set, and you'll take off. Before that time actually starts, you'll prepare each other. My driver pats me on the back sometimes. We'll do different things to really prepare for that start. But really, once that green light's off, a brakeman takes control. So you run down the start ramp, try and get the fastest push start as possible, because it's the only accelerator in the sport. We don't have motors or anything like that, so you got to get the sled going. So once the driver hops in, then the brakeman follows, and then you're on the track. Going down the track, different turns, lefts and rights, the driver's doing most of the work. The driver's actually controlling the sled, and as the brakeman in the back of the sled, you're basically trying to stay in a good riding position and really feeling what's going on in the back of the sled. So we can feel everything that's going on back there. But we're trying to stay calm and in a good position to help our driver. So our driver's navigating left and right all the way down the track. And at the very end of the track, because a brakeman is keeping track of where we are, they'll pull the brakes. So no communication goes on the entire trip down. It's just driver doing her thing and brakeman doing her thing, and then at the very end, hopefully you're celebrating at the bottom.
Right, after having gotten up to speeds of about 90 miles an hour.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
is everything somewhat of a blur as you're going down the track, or what visually does it look like? I mean, watching on TV, it looks like the speed is almost that things are just whizzing by.
Well, as a brakeman, all you can see in the back of the sled is the bottom of the sled, because your head's pretty tucked down, so you don't actually see anything. But as a driver, you see everything going down. You see basically a whole bunch of white walls coming at you, and you're trying to navigate different things. So that's basically what you're seeing. They said at the Whistler track, the first couple of times they went down, because they were going so fast, over 91 miles per hour, they didn't see much. But the more and more trips they took down, the more and more they got used to it and could navigate the track.
Right. Well, that final ride that you made when you crossed the finish line and you realized that you had won a medal, how did that feel?
It was pretty amazing. It was an amazing feeling, and it was kind of surreal that you didn't really believe it had happened. You work your whole lives to be able to go to the Olympics and be able to reach even medal status. Even to make the Olympics is a huge accomplishment, but to realize that you've won a medal, it's overwhelming. And you don't know what to do. Everything's chaotic. You don't know who to hug first or what's going on. You just are so excited and really living in the moment at that time.
Right. Well, congratulations on that great victory, and our camera's going to zoom in if you can hold that for us to be able to see the bronze. That's tremendous. That's great. Well, I want us to, in the final part of our program today, to talk about looking ahead for you. But a couple of things I do want to look back on at the 2010 Winter Olympics. I believe you were the only athlete from the metro Atlanta area that was on the entire U.S. Team. Is that correct?
Yes.
Were there any other athletes from Georgia?
No other athletes from Georgia. Other than Florida, there was one athlete from Florida. I was really the major representation from the South.
Right. Well, and you did a great job with that. Now, and because you're so new to the sport, I was thinking that, you know, the Olympics, the Winter Olympics that were held immediately before the 2010, which have been 2006, that was even a year before you even started bobsledding.
Right.
And here you are, Olympic medalist. So you had the inexperience that you had to overcome, and then of course I understand as you got closer, you had the experience now. You'd been a champion, but then you got a hamstring injury.
Right.
So, but you got over that also.
Right. I had a hamstring injury actually right after push championships where I was victorious, but it really set me back. Didn't post the greatest results that I wanted to this season. Definitely a long road, tough season, and I'm still recovering from that hamstring injury, but was able to be successful in the Olympics and was able to perform when it really mattered, so that's what ended up counting.
Right. And of course, as a push athlete, I know I'm a big Georgia Bulldog fan, and Herschel Walker, of course, decided that he wanted to be in the Olympics. And so he wanted to be on the bobsled, and I believe it was in 1992 that he made the team as a push athlete. I saw that a picture of you and Herschel Walker together. So what did he have to say to you about becoming a medalist?
Hey, Herschel was pretty excited. It was pretty huge honor for me to actually meet him. But he was pretty excited. You know, he was not able to win a bobsled medal himself, but he was super excited for me and super excited about the fact that I was from Georgia, his home state.
Right, right. I'm going to give you just a few numbers and tell me what these mean to you. 1984.
The year I was born.
Okay, so 400 pounds.
That is the weight of an average bobsled.
That's what you're pushing.
Yep, that's what I'm pushing. Some are a little bit heavier, some are a little bit lighter. Thankfully, I'm pretty heavy, so our sled can be a little bit lighter.
Right. 1.12 seconds.
That is the difference between bronze medal and a gold medal at these Olympics for women's bobsled.
53.05 seconds.
That is our fastest run of the 4 runs, and it actually was a track record for about 2 seconds until the next sled came down.
Right, right. February 25, 2010.
That is the actual date I received my medal. My medal was won on the February 24th, but we received the medal on the 25th. That's when it was hung around our necks.
Okay. $50,000.
$50,000 is the average cost of a new bobsled.
Right. 2014.
2014 is where when the next Winter Olympics will be held, and they will be held in Sochi, Russia, and that's where I'll win my next gold medal.
All right. Now, I know that you are doing some training, though, to be the driver rather than the brakeman. So tell us why you've decided to look at being the driver rather than continuing as the brakeman.
There's a couple of reasons why I look to be a driver. The career of a driver is much longer. As a brakeman, you're scrutinized every time you get on the track, so every number you put down, whether it's a running number or a lifting number or even a push number, is very scrutinized. And it's very hard to stay at that type of athletic level for extended periods of time. Drivers aren't under that same type of pressure physically all the time, so they're able to have much longer careers. Also, as a driver, you actually have control of what's going on down the track. As a brakeman, you're kind of subject to whatever the driver's doing, and I'm really looking forward to stepping in that front seat and seeing what I can do behind the ropes, behind the D-rings. So.
Okay, very good. And I've got one more number, Psalms 118:6.
That is the Bible verse I say right before every single race, and it is my life verse, and it was actually taped on the inside of our sled during the Olympics.
Okay, and that verse is?
For the Lord is with me, I will not fear, for what can man do to me?
All right, praise the Lord. Well, thank you for those comments. I know there was a lot of excitement back in Douglasville, Douglas County back in February when people began to realize that, hey, we've got a local athlete who's part of the 2010 Winter Games. And of course, after you won the medal, everybody was even more excited. But your schedule was so hectic, and I'm sure you were trying to get some recuperation in, that we were not able to put together an event that we had hoped to do for you. So we're delighted that your schedule is let up and you've been back in the community. I know that the mayor has presented you with a key to the city. That was done on our City Connector program here on City TV. I know the county has recognized you, and probably a number of other organizations or some other organizations I'm not familiar with. But I know that you've been out in the community, including some things in schools. And I know that school kids, I'm sure that I know you've been doing some field days with elementary and middle school kids. Tell us about that.
Oh, getting a chance to work out or go and work at the schools or be around children is one of the biggest things that I've been able to do since the medal, and it's really huge for me to be able to work with youth, and I love it. Being able to be at those field days and see those kids have their victories, their Olympics at their age group right now, it was pretty huge accomplishment to see them so excited, and to be able to share that joy with them. It was pretty amazing experience, and I hope to be able to continue working at the schools and meeting more and more of our youth.
Right. And I know some weeks ago you were at Arbor Place Mall, where we are today for this episode of On the Agenda, that Chamber of Commerce was having its Business to Community Expo, and you at the Gold's Gym exhibit, where you had a lot of people to come by, and you were signing autographs on everything from your picture to a scrap of paper that somebody might provide to you. If somebody, Elana, wanted to get a nice photograph of you that you would autograph, what do they need to do? We want to show that on our screen, because I know that that's one way that you as an amateur athlete try to generate some income to provide for support. And we want people that may be watching that would like to provide some financial assistance, make a contribution to you with to help you with meet your training expenses. So give us email address, phone number, however it would be best for somebody to get in touch so that they would be able to provide that assistance or ask for that autographed picture or whatever.
The best way to get in touch with me is actually via email. My email address is eamballer24@gmail.com. So it's eamballer24@gmail.com. But also I'm on Twitter, eamslider24, and on Facebook are also really good ways to get in touch with me. My phone's usually attached to my hip, so I have email and Twitter, Facebook with me all times, and usually those are the best ways to get a hold of me.
Right, and the number 24 is for?
My softball number.
Okay.
So it's my number that keeps coming up, and it's the day I won my bronze medal as well. So.
All right, very good. Well, we appreciate you being with us today. You know, the day of the Chamber event, I had wanted to invite you to be on this program, but you had so many people around you that I didn't get an opportunity to do that. And as you may remember, later that day, you were walking in one direction through a store, and I was coming in the other direction, and I stopped you and we chatted, and you were kind enough to give me a call a couple of days later and to arrange for this. You certainly are a credit to this community, and I'm sure that our viewing audience, this has been great for them just to get a up-close and personal view of an international athlete from here in Douglasville, Douglas County. You know, I always give my guest, Elana, an opportunity for a final word. So here's your opportunity for a final word.
Final word is just, I want to thank everyone in Douglas County and everyone in the community for all the support they've provided throughout the years, not just when I went to the Olympics, but growing up as a youngster in Douglas County. It's been a great experience, and I can't wait to see what the future holds for me in this great county.
Right. Well, it's been great having you today. You certainly are a credit to the United States, to the state of Georgia, Metro Atlanta, Douglasville, Douglas County. Certainly look forward to keeping up with you in the months and years ahead. Wish you the very best, and thank you very much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
And to our viewers, thank you for being with us today, and hope to see you next time. This is Bill Osmond signing off on The Agenda.